Well, thank you, everybody. It is so good to see so many smiling faces today. And first and foremost, I want to thank the Village HOA for putting this on. This is a big effort for them. Really appreciate you guys hosting us. And tonight, it's a big win, I think, for the families of Vineyard. I also want to thank Mardi for coming. It's great to be able to sit down and chat and talk about some our vision of Vineyard and let the voters kind of see the similarities and differences. I think that's important. If anything that the last couple of weeks has taught us is the need that we need to have good, proactive debate and be honest and open and do it in a respectful way. A little bit about myself. So my name is Zack Stratton. I'm a 6th generation Utah County native. I grew up in Orem, Northeast Orem. I'm married to the love of my life, Rachel. Where's Rachel? Is she here? Sitting somewhere? Right there. She's right there in the back. If you get the chance to meet her, she's awesome. She is my campaign manager, my partner in crime, and I love her dearly. We have 4 kids, 2 boys and 2 girls, and we love Vineyard. Love the place. Moved here about 5 years ago. I'm running for mayor because I'm concerned about the direction we're going. I'm concerned about the high taxes we're experiencing. I'm concerned about some transparency issues that I'm seeing. I'm concerned about our transportation. Over the course of my career, I started a little landscape company right after my mission and grew into the largest privately owned landscape company in the Mountain West region. I do projects throughout Utah, internationally, build temples. It's been a time of my life. So that's an introduction for me. I'm Zack Stratton, and looking forward to getting to know you and talking this evening. So thank you.
Oh, I have my own. I thought we had to share. Bart, is it going to be a problem if I stand? You're good. I'm good? Okay. Sorry, I'd love to be able to see everyone. That is a thing. My name is Mardi Sifuentes. I have been a Vineyard resident for 8 years now. I'm currently on your city council. I've been on council for 4 years. I am a wife and a mother of 3 teenage boys. My husband Jeremy and I have been married for 21 wonderful years, with a few hard, normal marriage years, right? We have loved living here in Vineyard. We think that Vineyard is just we were attracted to Vineyard because of the parks and the trails, and just have really enjoyed this community here and have loved the support and the relationships that we've built. I didn't intend to get into politics, but as we started getting comfortable here, we had some concerns, and I wanted to get involved to help with planning. I was concerned about density issues. I was concerned about protecting our single-family home zoned areas in the South. And so I decided to run for city council. And when I got onto council, there were some great successes and still a lot of challenges. And changing the form of government was probably the biggest priority for me, because when I got on there, I saw that we were having some issues with our governance, with our checks and balances. And so I felt that we had a mayor that had too many powers with executive, administrative, and legislative powers. And at a small size city, that makes sense, but with how much we've grown, we needed to improve our checks and balances. And so I pushed for a proposition. It was a lot of work to get it through council and got it onto the ballot, and it passed by 75% approval. And that new form of government will start January of this next year with our new mayor. And so I'm unique in the sense that I knew I was running for mayor, and I purposely went to lessen those powers I would have. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. We will start our first question, and the category is governance. Proper governance requires strong and open leadership and knowledge of how to comply with city, county, state, and federal law. Proper governance also requires tone at the top, meaning the mayor needs to set the compliance tone for the city elected officials, city employees, and all Vineyard residents. How will this take place in your administration?
Oh, who's going first?
Yeah, who's going first? Marty?
Well, you went first, so it'd be
Okay.
one.
Okay, thank you.
And I like the idea of standing up. That's good. So I'm going to
Good.
do that too.
I'm so sorry. Will you repeat the question one more time? Does that take up my time? Can we have the question repeated before we start my time?
Certainly. Proper governance requires strong and open leadership and knowledge of how to comply with city, county, state, and federal law. Proper governance also requires tone at the top, meaning the mayor needs to set the compliance tone for city elected officials, city employees, and all Vineyard residents. How will this take place in your administration?
Thank you. So that's one area where I think I have a great advantage with my experience on city council. I've been attending trainings, I've been sitting through meetings. I mean, sometimes this position, even on city council, has been a full-time job with how many meetings and understanding or learning the different complexities of how federal and state law works. And every proposal that comes in front of me has to be something where we evaluate first, is this within the law? Is it within the priorities of Vineyard City? I mean, we have several different priorities of Vineyard City, and then also, is it what the community wants, right? Is it what's best for us for the long run? The one recent concern that Vineyard residents have had is our recent audit. The state auditor sent a letter that was showing that we had 3 areas in which we were not in compliance for. And the 3 items, one was called GASB 77, which is an accounting issue that we now are in compliance for. Another one was the concern with our quarterly reporting. We were reporting quarterly reports, and they needed to be actually, once transactions had completed, they needed to be resubmitted. And then the last one was our TEC meetings, which we're working on. But what I'm trying to say is we found an issue. It's a valid concern. We're working on it. And it needs to be something that goes with better training. It happened in 2022, and our new city financial director wasn't trained, and now she is, and she's in compliance. And I think it's important that we move forward, making sure that we can continue on with that.
Well, like I said, I want to stand too. That's a good idea, Marty. You know, this is something that I've been concerned about as many Vineyard residents. That state auditor report, thank you for addressing that, Marty. I think it was unnecessary. I think there were issues that should have been caught before, but I'm glad that they're being rectified now. I want to make sure something very clear to everyone that's listening. I truly believe we have amazing, amazing employees here in the city of Vineyard. I think Marty and I can agree on that. I think, though, that over the course of the years, the city has grown so fast that we have lacked the proper oversight and the proper ability to manage that growth. There is such thing as growing too fast. And I think that we are just right on the cusp of that. When it comes to how do I set the tone, any business leader that's led an organization at size and scale like I have knows that open book management is the best management. Sunlight is the best disinfectant. Problems are best solved in the open. And that is my commitment to if I get elected mayor, is to bring all these problems to the light. Have the discussion at town hall. Don't hide. Try to kill the culture of closed door meetings. We need to be able to talk about these problems and solve them together, because I believe together we can create a great city. So, did I go too long? Was that the? You're right up. Okay.
Did I get my 60 seconds? One thing that I want to share, I agree. I agree that growing too fast has created a lot of our issues here in Vineyard City. And one of the issues is, well, specifically with one of the issues that you shared that should have been caught before, it was actually a very common issue. I agree with you. We should be under compliance. But I guess what I'm trying to say is with our Vineyard staff, we need to be able to have a culture where employees feel safe and where employees feel like they can ask those questions. And I think with the political atmosphere, they have felt really nervous. And I think that as a mayor, we need to create an environment where our community, our residents, and our staff, and our council, our legislation, our management can gather together and work as a team without concerns of being let go or concerns of feeling like you're going to be personally targeted. I think that the atmosphere in our community needs to be healed. And I think that fast growth is going to continue to happen, but we're only going to continue and grow successfully if we grow together and if we can find ways to be unified. That doesn't mean we have to agree on everything, but that does mean we can all work together.
Any comments?
Yeah. No, we can go to the next one.
Thank you. The next question is centered around administration. How, and we'll start with Zack on this one.
Sure.
How would you describe your leadership style, and how will you make the time to fully serve if you are elected mayor?
Thank you for this great question. This is something that's actually come up a few times, and I think that it's a very fair question, especially with all the executive roles or executive duties I have with my company right now. The mayor position is a part-time position, and on my best years, I employ 300 to 500 employees and subcontractors. Like I said, do probably 1,000 projects all over the Intermountain region and internationally. But I think an understanding of kind of what my business is structured is, how I lead is I surround myself with the best and brightest people. I have an amazing CFO, VP of operations. I've got a chief marketing officer, and those guys run our business day to day. And it's really enabled me to dig in and serve the community and go after some passion projects. I have a sister in the audience, or her husband's one of my amazing VPs that does such a great job for us. I think that the way that I lead is I lead best when I'm out in front. That's just me speaking from the heart. I love to get into the weeds. I love to lead the charge. I love to get into the details. I lead organizations that are data driven. We make decisions based on facts, not feelings. And we do it with a lot of respect for each other. My goal is, if anyone who works for me and works with me, I want them to be better and do better. And I want to have them grow the man. So that's kind of the way that I look at it, and kind of what I'm about. So
I keep wanting to take your microphone like you're supposed to.
You're awesome.
I love what Zack said. I think we are similar personality types on this. I think that if you want to get a job done, you give it to a busy person, right? There's people that are very productive, and I think that's what you're looking at with. My whole life, I've been a details-oriented. I'm very organized. I'm very excited on projects. I'm driven by challenges. I ran for mayor because I wanted to do something hard. I knew that this would be a challenging race. I knew that I was going to be having to work day in and day out. My 3 wonderful teenage boys, they have been so supportive of all of it. And I think that balancing out our responsibilities with the care of our community is really where I find family and community is where my heart is. And so this to me doesn't seem like a challenge of service with managing my time. It's a privilege. My leadership style, I want to make sure that I mentioned this before, I want to make sure that this is a community where we can collaborate. That was a minute and a half. Wow, okay.
No, that was a minute for the rebuttals.
That was my first one.
That was your first one.
I'm sorry, you get 30 more seconds. Starting now.
I was going to say, that's a fast 90 seconds. So.
Let's see if I can gather my thoughts.
Sorry.
No, you're great. Honestly, I feel that leadership needs to be someone that can collaborate, that can work well with others, someone that does a lot of listening rather than talking. I think it's important to observe what the staff concerns are, what the community is concerned about, and then from there we can come together at the table and actually find something that we can all be proud of. I'll stop there.
Zack, any additional comments?
No, I think it's,
Okay, thank you very much. Our next question. There has been a perception over the last 4 years that Vineyard politics have become more and more heated. What experience do you have to bring to the office of mayor that could help bring stability and respect to our city, starting with
So their opposition to me is great. I believe that if we all come in, if you have a city council and every single person thinks the same way, what's the point of having 5 members? What's the point of having everyone in the room that just thinks the same and agrees all on the same issue? I love it when we can have council members that can come in and challenge ideas. The trick is, can we collaborate and actually come to a decision and actually move forward with the important issues for Vineyard? There are things that you're not going to get the whole pie. You're not going to get it exactly how you want, but you're going to have to be willing. I don't like the word, God, I don't like it that I forget what it is. I don't like the word compromise. I think there are things that in government there are compromises, but I believe that we can actually collaborate. If everyone brings different ingredients to the table, then we can build something better. We can make a banana bread rather than just dealing with oil and vinegar. We can bring our milk, sugar, flour, and eggs to make something better. I think that it starts from the top, though. I think that we need a mayor that's transparent. We need someone that's going to work well with the community to communicate the issues that are going on and make sure that we're actually, all council members have assignments. That's something that I have disagreed with administration. I do believe that every council member needs to have their role and needs to make sure that they're filling a full part of our council and being included in everything we're doing.
My turn? Okay, thank you. Well, I think a couple of things to know about me that it would be important for the audience to understand. The first thing is I work in construction, and I deal with contention and conflict every day. I've been in contract negotiations that will literally melt your face off. Sweet mama. Couple that with the reality, I have 5 sisters. So I have a lot of experience in bringing people together. And this might be a little bit where I think that the current administration has struggled with, and I think that they could do better. I think that we need to get people in a room. I think we need to get that room in the city hall. I think we need to talk. I think we need to clean our wounds. Our city is divided, and there are some festering wounds right now. And the only way I see forward is as we get out, get these things in the open, kill the culture of closed-door meetings, and we just talk about it. We've got to talk about these things, and we got to get it on the record. And we got to have, you bring your facts and you bring their facts, and let's sit down and get it. That's how you negotiate. That's how you find peace. I want to be a peacemaker. My natural state is a peacemaker. And being a peacemaker requires backbone. It requires having brutally hard conversations that are extremely uncomfortable. They are. That's what Christ did. That's what President Nelson has told us to do. And we need to have those conversations, clean the wounds, and let our community heal.
60 seconds. You've brought up closed sessions a couple times, and I think I want to clarify. A lot of times what people don't understand is there's only certain things that we can actually go into closed door sessions for, and there's a list. I wish I had it memorized, but typically in my time, we've only ever gone into closed session when we have we have intimate litigation, which having that in an open meeting would be detrimental to the negotiation. And those things, we never vote in those closed sessions. They're simply discussions of ways to protect the city and take care of business without showing all of our competitors or people that are after us. So those are important. There's also meetings where we're dealing with staff, and staff has the rights to privacy, not like elected officials. Elected officials, you're right. Elected officials can have these open discussions. We can have our frustrations aired. But when it comes to staff and protecting our staff, they have a right to that privacy. And so that's another closed session. If we feel like a staff is not performing, we're not going to have that conversation in front of the entire community.
Zack, do you?
Yeah. I appreciate Marty bringing up that litigation. That's something that's been really concerning to me. I work in construction, and they say there was a statistic that came out recently that 40% of construction projects over $100 million have litigation tied to it. Kim's worked in it. I mean, I look around, many of you guys are working in construction. It's litigious. The best way to stop litigation is have conversations and open. I want to start a church about that. It's the best way to stop it. And I truly feel that transparency hurts nothing. Transparency will only bring healing to our city, and it will only bring less lawsuits against the taxpayers of Vineyard.
Thank you. Our next category of questions around priorities. And we'll start with Zack. If elected, what would be the 3 highest priorities of your administration, and how do you plan to implement them?
Awesome, thank you. As I've been campaigning the last few months, something has been made very clear. Residents of our city are suffering, and they're suffering because of property taxes. I've seen that firsthand. I've served ecclesiastically over a congregation on the south end of town. I have seen firsthand and had to write rent checks to members of my congregation that I love dearly, because they came to me and they said, my landlord raised my rent because of property tax increases. That has to stop. And that will stop with me as mayor. The way you stop it, zero-based budgeting, okay? You categorize different services. We have essential services, which I think are probably underfunded. Police, fire, water. And then you have services that are ancillary. Drone shows and all these things. We need to get our tax burden lower. Second thing, we have got to stop outgrowing our infrastructure. Out here on 800 North the other day, I was driving home from work. I looked down the road, I was stuck in traffic. I said, what if someone in the villas had a heart attack at 5:30? How in the world is a paramedic gonna get here? Third thing, transparency. So, you're welcome to use this one.
I really want to take yours.
You're awesome.
So sorry. Okay, so my first priority is economic development. So if you look around at all the cities around us, and if you look at the different tax burdens that these cities have, the ones that have the lowest tax burden are the cities that have a booming economic development, booming commercial sector. And the only real way to lower our property taxes, we can go through and we can do these budget cuts, and we have done budget cuts. Frankly, every year I look at the budget and I go through and I'm able to cut things even before we have the final vote or the final debates. And so with the city wanting to cut our property taxes, it needs, for long-term growth and success, we need to increase that economic development. We also need that infrastructure. I agree. It has been very concerning. We need our roads widened. There are several roads, but again, that takes budget, right? And then we also, I'm worried about time. We also need good governance. We need to make sure that we are communicating. I agree. We need transparency. We need open communication. But in the end, it comes down to working as a team, finding these projects, lobbying with the state to get funding for key infrastructure, like 800 North needs to be widened. We just got funding for 1200 North to build a bridge, which will help divert transportation and traffic for Utah City further north, which will alleviate a lot of our pressure. And our fire station is so perfect that it's 60 seconds away from this community, and that is a wonderful way to spend our property taxes.
Yeah. I appreciate that, and I think that we just need to, there's a big difference, not a big difference, there's definitely a difference between me and Mardi on the specific thing, and I think it's the prism as which we see organizational alignment, organizational excellence. When a department head for me comes and asks for $1 million increase, and I cut it to $800,000, I view that they still get a $200,000 increase. That's how I view it. I appreciate that, what you were saying about cutting budgets, but I just think that, that we just got to run a tight ship. I truly feel that. And we've got to respect the taxpayer dollars. Too many Vineyard residents work too hard to see our money wasted on international travel, wasted on $1 million city hall plans, on a building we're never gonna build. There's no appetite for it. I knock doors. We just need to, Vineyard doesn't have Vineyard has a spending problem, so.
If we were to cut out all of our drone shows, our activities, our events, which is a lot of the character of what I love about this community, it would save us probably 0.01% of our budget. I think less. We've only ever traveled internationally once. I found out about it about a week before it happened, and we can argue about the purposes of that trip, but that is something that I commit to you I would never support. I have also made it clear when other trips have been proposed that is not something I support, and I think you're right. We do need to make sure that we're spending within our means, but we also need to be realistic on what's really going to cut our property taxes when 100% of our property taxes goes to cover 70% of what our fire and safety costs are. So there's not a lot we can cut in fire and safety. Like you said, I'll agree with Zack in how we need to improve that. But I definitely think that it's an idealistic viewpoint to politely disagree.
Thank you. I appreciate the politely disagree, but I think it's just disingenuous to spend $1 million architecture plans on a city hall that we.
Are we going back and forth because he's breaking the rules? And I agree that it's unfortunate that we lost that partnership with MAG because we do need staff city offices, and that is why I created a committee to have residents come in. We need to find something that we can all agree on.
Okay.
We need.
Thank you so much. There's going to be some time to thank you so much. Natural resources are an essential part of making a city move forward. Water is an extremely valuable asset. What will you do to ensure that future planning includes the availability of sufficient water supply and the ability to store it? And that's Marty.
You first? Okay.
I love this question. Water is a huge concern, and we have a state that is pushing for more growth, more housing, and they're constantly pushing for us to have more affordable housing. And it's like, how are we going to be able to afford to bring in all these homes and actually keep water available to all the new residents? It is a statewide issue. It needs to be approached at the state while the cities need to work on conservation. I just met with Ben Abbott and Jake, I lost his last name, but we talked a lot about growing the flow in Utah and ways that we can help Utah Lake and the Great Salt Lake and ways that we can help that essential water supply. And so it's not something that I think any one person can single-handedly solve, but it's definitely something that we need to work with our legislators and make sure that we're making water-wise decisions, that we're actually coming to good solutions that will help the long-term flow. I think that's it.
Yeah. So obviously, my full-time job, I'm a landscaper, so we are definitely aligned on slow the flow on that. I spoke to Sullivan Love recently. He said we have enough water right now to cover us. But the challenge with our city is as we grow. And one of the things that's happened that I don't love is we've got to have these developers get their own solutions. If we need more water, they need to go find their own water. That's what needs to happen. That's what we need to push for. Next thing too, and I appreciate that, and I think, thanks Jared, was that you? Anyways, the next thing too, and I just want to reiterate this, and I hope that this debate doesn't come across as contentious. But one of the big differences between me and between Marty is I just do not have an appetite to spend taxpayer dollars at the level that she does. I just don't. I can't go there. I understand we need new staffing, but you know what else we also need? We need to get our kids and our school teachers out of portable office, portable trailers at Vineyard Elementary School. We have so much needs. We need to be stewards of the hardworking Vineyard families. And I truly feel that as a mayor, as the chief executive of this city, I report to the families. I report to to those who are paying the taxes, and I will protect your interests.
I'm glad you bring up the school district. It is a huge concern with the costs that are going to go into having a 3-district split. I've been following that very closely, and I agree portables are going to have to be the temporary solution. It's not a long-term solution. But that is not something that the mayor of Vineyard has a lot of involvement in. We have our relationships with the school district, and I've built some great relationships there. But that is something that we don't have jurisdiction on besides lobbying and supporting where we can. The other issue of raising taxes is Vineyard has had 0 tax raises in 20 years. And yes, we did have to have a tax increase this last year because we needed to be able to pay for our additional firemen in our new fire station. And so for me, if it means that I have to pay an extra $13 a month to be able to make sure that I have emergency services to save lives, then I'm going to pay that. And I agree, that's a huge issue. I want to be so helpful and compassionate to those that have financial needs, and I know you guys specifically were here in the Villas with a fixed income. We're very aware of that and very concerned, but there are services that we also need to be willing to pay for.
I appreciate.
Mine was a rebuttal. No, mine was second. Go ahead.
Is this a rebuttal?
This is the rebuttal.
Okay. I appreciate you bringing up that we've, the first time in 20 years, raised taxes. But to me, kind of how I look at that is we've had a problem for 20 years and we made it worse. That's just how I look at it. That's just a different prism. We're going to have to agree to disagree on that. The other big thing that I think that's really important for the Vineyard people to know is I really, truly believe that our brightest days are ahead of us, that we can make this great city. We have to work, as Marty said, you have to work with this upcoming district split. It's going to be nasty, and we're going to have to work together, and we're going to have to lead out, and we're going to have someone up in the mayor's position that has the backbone and the ability and the executive experience to make that all happen. Oh, nailed it, right on time.
Do I get another rebuttal? You've been doing that. Okay, I'll do it later.
Okay, thank you. For our next question, we'll start with Zack first. Parking is a significant issue facing our Vineyard residents. What is your position on the city's current parking pass requirement? And more broadly, what do you see as the city's role in managing parking now and in the future? Zack.
This is a great question, and I've spoken to previous city council members, and they told me point blank they got taken advantage of by the developers on the parking issue, and they feel bad about it. Not Marty. This was before Marty's time. This is not her fault. As I look at the HOAs, what is an HOA? And I work with HOAs every day, up and down the Wasatch Front, all over the state of Utah. I view HOAs as mini pockets, political subdivisions of a city, where you can organize and come up with problems that fix your specific solutions. Government works best when it is closest to the people, and I believe HOAs can help solve that. When it comes to the parking pass that the city came up with, personally, I think that it was, in many cases, predatory. I think it hurt our citizens. It broke my heart that, I don't know, Jacob Wood could tell you, 400 students trying to get to school got booted in the course of 2 months. The city missed the ball on this. They did, point blank. Now, when it comes to the parking pass, I've heard of it working in some other areas. So my commitment as mayor, if I get elected, is to work directly with the HOAs. I do it every day. I know how they work, how they function. Working with HOAs to help them solve their parking problems in their own neighborhoods and just get the city out of it as best we can.
Some parking passes are actually really successful. Some parking restrictions have actually been very successful working with the communities, working with the different HOA boards. Specifically, there was a community where they actually invested and bought more property to be able to handle their high population. And so to me, it's a private issue that I agree, it'd be great if the city didn't have to have involvement. But when you're also dealing with public streets, where you're dealing with overcrowded streets, too many cars on the road, it can create safety hazards. We have to have some type of regulation when we see extreme problems. Is it through predatory towing or booting? No. I'm pretty sure that the 400 boots, and please correct me, Jacob Wood, was over 2 years, not 2 months, but it has been terrible. And what I would love to see code enforcement meter maid of sorts that actually could go around, and where we have specific issues, we could actually have someone that's giving warnings, that's helping educate the community. Really, our main issue is not a parking issue. Our main issue is over occupancy. If we have 8 single people living in a home with a driveway that holds 2 cars and a garage that's full of storage, that is going to harm and be wearing on any community. So with what the city council has currently been working on is called the landlord program. And this will hold landowners or landlords accountable when they're renting out. It'll give us that extra information so that we can actually hold them accountable when they break city code.
Yeah. I think one of the good things about debates is it gets to show the audience and the voters of Vineyard where their candidates lie, and they get to choose a candidate who most aligns with where they're at. And I appreciate you bringing up this meter maid issue. Mardi and I have had discussions, and I think that this whole meter maid issue is just another example of wanting to grow the government larger than I have appetite for. I think that localized parking solutions are the best. I think that the city should be involved in a very limited basis. I think that HOAs, like the good folks here at the Villa and the ones down at Lakeshore, let them come up with the best solutions. I just think that that's just the best way to do it moving forward. And I appreciate where you stand on this, but I just can't go there having our government grow that big. I want a government off my back and out of my pocket.
Do I get to say something? Yeah, no, I'm with you. And having to deal with, we have to have some kind of management. And having the sheriff's department handle those tickets is an extremely expensive cost when we could hire a low-paid employee to go around and help with the community and help with our level of quality of life. And having the landlord program, again, is another way to monitor that. It's another way for the city to help. I think that I'm with you. I'm less government. I'm with you on let's make sure that the government's not telling you how to live your lives. I think it's actually really hard for me to look at a house and say, oh, I know that there's 5 people living in it and city code says 4, so we better go inspect it. But the issue at hand is they're not being good neighbors. They're not being good actors. They're creating a hard situation for families. There are children at risk here. And so for me, yeah, I'd love to just say, let's not spend the money, let's not worry about it. But we actually governance requires action. And so that's what you'll see with my record is I have action in what I do.
Thank you. For our next 2 questions to be centered around finances and taxes. And we'll start with Mardi first on this next question. City leaders are ultimately stewards of Vineyard. Taxpayer dollars, stewards of Vineyard's taxpayer dollars. What in your background best demonstrates your ability to manage large budgets responsibly and in compliance with applicable laws?
I'm glad you asked. When I first got on city council, I didn't know what I was doing. I had managed a small business for a telecommunications company. We probably had sales of about $500,000 a year. But working on city council for 4 years, I have learned the habits of the city. I've learned where there is waste, and I've learned where I can go through and I scour that budget. And I know which departments might be inflated, and I know which departments are asking for things they don't need because I have the experience and the communication with staff. I'm regularly meeting with staff. I'm regularly working on projects in the city, and I'm able to go through and actually fine-tooth comb and find things that we need to change and make sure that our money is going to where priorities need to be. I am concerned about a couple of our contracts that were done when I was in a super minority on the council. My first 2 years on council, I didn't have a lot of say on things. I was seen as I was once called the naysayer because I wasn't always quote unquote in lockstep with everything the council did. And it taught me a lot. It taught me that I can go, the information is key. And if I can find information, if I can find the tools I need, I can actually elicit change where possible. And so with staffing, with finances, we need to make sure that we're being respectful, that we're being aware of our community, and we need to also balance out the needs of what Vineyard is having with growth.
I think this is a great question, and I think it's really important to answer, and the voters of Vineyard need to understand a couple of things. The last time I ran an operation or an organization as small as the city of Vineyard I was probably 26 years old. I have vast executive experience managing this. I have more horror stories than I could ever in a whole night even recount of lessons learned. And I think what I want to do and why I volunteered to serve and raise my hand was I want to bring those lessons learned and apply them to city government. We need a businessman in the mayor's seat. I just feel that. We for too long have made bad deals, negotiated poor contracts. I appreciate Mardi saying that she was in the minority, but I just think that you have to push back harder. That's been my experience in the private sector, and you have to stand up and say no. I think that it's important to realize that the citizens need to realize is in the year 2025, Mardi is 1/5 the mayor. That's how it sits right now, and I completely agree. Switching up, moving forward is a great thing, but we need to be just real about what's happened over the last 4 years.
I'm so glad you brought up my voting record. What's frustrating for me is if you look at city councils, we work really hard to come to solutions, right? The whole point of having a group of 5 people sitting in a room is you're negotiating, you're working on finding solutions. If we just vote no for just making a statement when it's state law, or when we vote no for a drive-through pharmacy because we don't like the developers, it's an issue. And so my voting record, which I guess for some background, I have voted no on high-density housing. Every single high-density housing proposal that's come through, I have voted no. I voted to change ranked choice voting to traditional voting because I felt like it was contentious, and I could talk to you for about an hour what I have concerns with ranked choice voting on. I also have voted no on hold-away fields, having the development change. There's a proposal right now where a developer is trying to change single-family homes into townhomes. I will vote no on that. And the last thing I want to say is Mayor Fulmer always votes last. So Mayor Fulmer votes like I do. When there's a proposal and she sees the majority going a certain way, she will vote with the majority.
Yeah. No, I appreciate you bringing up your voting record. And again, I think that I just don't see it through that prism. There's probably no one in the city that disagrees more with Councilman Holdaway than I do. And I can't even go over the many things. But I think that his voting record is someone, 66%, whatever it is, 60, 70%, that kind of goes to show what, is the state law and stuff like that. And, tax increases and fee increases, I just can't get behind that. I do appreciate you voting no on the high density. I have a little heartburn as it's come to light the last little bit, the involvement of various developers and other sources getting involved in our campaigns. I don't think that's good. And I'm grateful to hear you publicly state that you will not be supporting that developer's request for 250 additional houses, or townhomes, where they're called. So that's my time.
For the next question, we'll start with Zack first. And there are those who believe Vineyard's financial footing is solid, and there is also those who believe it is not. What is your position, and if elected, what steps would you take to make sure our city's financial position is strong now and into the future?
Thank you. This is a great question, and I think that it really needs to go to show kind of where my default setting is. I'm a fiscally conservative person. I just am. I feel that taxes, when they're taken from us, they're taken from bread out of the mouth of the laborer. I don't have issues with taxes. I just have issues when I don't feel like we're getting a good ROI on them. I think it's just hard. Currently, as I dig into the budget, the challenge has been is I've requested information, the ledger, and I still haven't been able to get it, which is fine. But as I look through the budget, I am concerned about how our city is being run. And I think that's just shown by the high property taxes that we're all having to pay. A couple of things that we have to do, whoever's mayor, is you got to get in there and we got to do zero-based budgeting and have the backbone and strength to stand up to the department heads and say, listen, I love you and you're doing a great job, but we just can't afford that. And that's okay. That's okay. We have to be able to stand up and say, listen, we need you to get in line here. Those are a couple of my thoughts. My commitment is to make sure and just go through budget line item by line item, just like I do with my business that, again, is much larger than the city, and spend the time needed to make it happen.
Zack, we've only ever had one real conversation, and in it you did tell me about your financial concerns with the city. And my first question was to you, as someone that's running for mayor and potentially taking on this new seat, this is a great opportunity for you to meet with staff, to go in and talk to our financial director and actually take a look at the real budget. Because so far your information, like you said, you've been lacking, and it is online. We have all of our finances on transparency. We have our finances on the city website. And so for you to not be willing to meet with our finance director in preparation for this seat was very disappointing to me, because whoever is our next mayor needs to be willing to work with the staff, as I have been making those hard choices to say, we can't afford that. No, you can't have that extra additional truck, or we can't afford to have that additional employee. And even with our sheriff's department, we've had to say, let's do 1.5 sheriff's positions this year and do another 0.5 the next year. And it's a matter of having those hard conversations that we already have, that we already are working on. And it's really easy to come from the outside and criticize when you don't see the day-to-day work that we're all doing. It's really easy to say, oh, there must be corruption or there must be financial peril when you're not in it. And yes, I love your plan of cutting the budget. I love your plan of working towards cutting spending where we can, but we also have to remember we want to keep the level of services here while we're being fiscally responsible, and that's why we need to increase our economic development.
$60 seconds? No, thank you. I think we're aligned, Marty, that we need to cut spending. It sounds like you're getting there, and I really appreciate that. A couple of things that need to be, I just want to make public and made known a few things. When the city came forth and said we can afford a $35 million city hall, I had some serious doubts about that. I went to the budget, I built myself a financial analysis and just a financial model, just like I do for my own business every time I have to renegotiate my lines of credit and my spending limits with Zions Bank. And I could see very quickly that that just wasn't gonna work. I went to the city, I said, hey, can you give me some backup information? Because 2 and 2 isn't equaling 4, it looks like it's equaling 3. I asked for the ledger. They said, hey, we're gonna charge you thousands and thousands of dollars. And I said, hey man, where there's smoke, there's fire. I was really concerned about that. I raised my hand, had some meetings, and that's kind of how that's what happened. But I think more than anything else, I just think we need to have a different mindset in City Hall. We've got to get our spending under control.
Do I have a rebuttal? I can't keep track. I'm glad you brought up this $35 million City Hall. That was a partnership with MAG. We were never going to spend, as a city, $35 million on a City Hall. And no matter what everyone says, we can't seem to clear that up. It was an 18 to 20, actually at one point it was 16 to 18, but I prefer to go higher so that we're actually being transparent and honest that it could creep up. So 18 to 20 million would have been our portion, while MAG would have had the rest, and it would have been this great partnership where you have literally the government organization that determines funding for local infrastructure, for widening roads like 800 North, would have been driving our roads every day to work, seeing the traffic and construction we have, and they would have, to me, that was an investment to partner with them. Also, in that building, we would have been sharing spaces, so each bathroom cost us 50%. Each council, even the council chambers, they wanted to split the cost because they wanted access to it. Partnering with another government entity is incredibly smart, and that's why we need a committee to come back and tell us how we want to do it.
This next question, let's start with Mardi. Vineyard property taxes are the highest in Utah County, as has already been stated. According to the Utah County Tax Commission, what could you legitimately do in an effort to lower vineyard property taxes and bring more balance between property tax and sales tax?
So I've talked a lot about economic development already, but I haven't talked about how we're going to do it. We've already seen a lot of success. The 4 years I've been on council, I actually was looking at the drone footage, and the yard was just that small little center area with the megaplex. But now we have tons of offices, doctors' offices. We have the Topgolf. We have Huntsman Cancer Institute coming in our downtown, which just took up 20 acres of what would have and could have been high-density housing. That's 10 to 20 apartment buildings alone by bringing in a really great business that's going to not pay into our property taxes, right? But they are going to bring in hotels, high-paying jobs, restaurants, shops. It's going to be something that helps increase our sales tax revenue. It will help with our property tax on a commercial base. There's so many things that we can do to lobby, to bring in more businesses, to bring in that, to make businesses want to come here. We've been really, I want to bring up the RDA. The RDA has been a really great tool. I know that there is a lot of controversy, and I'm not going to have time to dive into all of it, but we had the choice back in 2011, early council members, to take something that was a brown field and just leave it like that and just be this suburban community, versus investing into the development, investing into the land to make sure that it isn't just a brown field that's fenced up, and it's something that is bringing in most of us that live here are here because the RDA was created.
Thank you. Appreciate your comments about that and the RDA, and I think that by and large, I do have issues with the RDA, and I've been pretty open and public about that. I do agree that Geneva still needed to get cleaned up. I can completely get behind that. I have heartburn, though, when we have socialized risk for private profit. I have heartburn with the government picking winners and losers and the government giving handouts to developers. Now, I can completely understand that the RDA has been a blessing to us all, but going forward, we just have to have better oversight. And I think that the RDA it's, I view the RDA, that's kind of gone in the past, and it's like, how do we move forward with the current state? We have to use those RDA dollars to attract and bring quality businesses to Vineyard. The only way we're going to get out of this property tax craziness is we're going to have to bring in additional businesses to Vineyard. At the same time, we've got to cut back spending. I know I feel like I'm beating a dead horse on that, but that's what I see, and that's what I think that the taxpayers deserve and need moving forward.
Zack, I really appreciate what you said about the RDA needing to move forward. I don't know if I would have voted for the RDA back in 2011, but I think I would have been short-sighted. I know it's an incredibly controversial topic when you sit down and debate on politics and how public-private partnerships and all those different topics. But what I have seen with the RDA is we have a lot of cleanup to do, and that needs to be the priority. We have to be able to clean up a mountain of trash that's, I think, 60 feet tall and 40 feet wide that's still in East Geneva. We need to make sure that there's a mile-long piece of concrete that is about a half a mile wide and 12 feet deep that we're somehow going to have to break apart or figure out ways to build on top of it. Nothing would have happened without this RDA, but we need to make sure that we're able to complete all of the goals the city needs to make sure that that land is created into something that will benefit us all. So.
Thank you. We'll go to the next question, which may have a familiar or similar tune to our last discussion. It's around growth. There's a statement and there's a question. On December 27th, 2023, the Vineyard City Council voted unanimously to authorize the developers of Utah City to procure $1.5 billion in public improvement district or PID financing, as well as taxes and zoning for over 1,000 rental units. That would provide the developer with millions of dollars of income for the foreseeable future. The question is, please explain why we are currently using the RDA, or Redevelopment Agency, funds to reimburse Utah City developers for trees, parks, roads, water, and sewer, when we have already given them the authorization for the PID, which has the appearance of Zack, will start with you.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that question. And again, I think this just goes back to the statement I said in my response to the first question of this principle of privatized profit and public risk. I really have a hard time with that. I really do. I truly feel that RDAs, I remember growing up in Orem. Allen's grocery store was a great family-owned grocery store. The city of Orem came and said, we're going to start an RDA. And we want to invite Albertsons, which at the time was a national chain, to come into town. And the owners of Allen's went to the city council and said, listen, I'm here. Why don't you just choose me? I give back to the community. I employ kids that live here. And that's what, RDAs and PIDs are slippery slopes. They are. Developers, I'm a contractor. I work with developers every day. They make plenty of money. We don't need to give them free handouts.
That was a really loaded question. There's a lot packed in there. I think there's a lot of misunderstandings on what public infrastructure districts are, PIDs. They are actually an area, and they can be incredibly controversial, but we were actually able to negotiate a really great contract that doesn't unfairly tax residents. What it is you actually can take an area, you can take even a small plot of land, you could have 10 residents in one spot and 10 residents in the other, and the person across the street in those 10 houses could actually be paying a portion higher in property taxes than them for no apparent reason, for no apparent turnaround or payout. And so what a PID does is it specifically allows an area to have a higher tax rate that actually allows developers to loan from so that they have more money up front to afford infrastructure that's needed for the development. The benefit of our contract is that we actually negotiated where they could not tax residents in this PID. So the main controversial item with no taxation without representation is typically the biggest red flag in a PID, why I would vote no on a PID, was completely taken out of the equation. And now these developers have an extra additional tax that they themselves are paying. They pay that extra portion, and then they can go to Zion's Bank or whichever bank and loan against that money that they're paying in their extra additional taxes above what all of us are paying. So to me, it's a smart financial tool that will help build the roads and infrastructure that we need.
Yeah, I appreciate the explanation. I just don't think, I work with the developers every day. Heck, they're my clients. I love them, but they just don't need taxpayer dollars to build their projects. That's my experience. That's my prism. That's my point of view. So.
Again, it's their tax dollars that they're paying that they loan against. So I think it's a smart tool.
Yep. Agree to disagree.
Thank you. Let's go to our next question. A Google search shows that the ratio of single-family homes to high-density housing in Vineyard is 33% single-family and 67% high-density. How will you work to balance future single-family home construction as opposed to high-density housing construction in our community? We'll start with Mardi.
This is exactly why I ran for council. This is exactly what got me interested in municipal civics. I share the concern. It's been proven single-family homes, when you have established residents, it can definitely benefit the community. Not that our apartments and townhomes don't bring in wonderful families, and we do need affordable housing. It's a huge issue in our state. And Vineyard does have a really great location next to public transit that helps with that. Is it what I would have envisioned for Vineyard? No, not at all. I'm a suburban girl. I would have loved to see the entire city as single-family homes with a little bit of economic development sprinkled in. I don't know how that would have resulted in our property taxes, but a girl can dream. I think that the biggest thing we can do is Utah City has been signed. It's a done deal. It was done before my time. We're dealing with the consequences of previous councils and the decisions that they've made. And what we have to do is do our best to push and negotiate and work with these developers to make sure that they're bringing in things like the 20-acre all-ability park, like a community pool, like the promenade that's this beautiful open walking area, bringing in a grocery store before they felt like it was economically smart. There are so many things that we can do to make these high-density areas better by working on parking negotiations, working on making sure that it's safe, well-lit. And then also protecting our low-density zoned housing in the south, because that, to me, is precious.
I really appreciate Marty's comments on that, and I think that there's really good alignment on kind of what we see for the future of Vineyard, especially when it comes to single family and high density. Vineyard has plenty of high density. We don't need any more. And my commitment is, as mayor, I will push back on any additional high density. I agree with her. Utah City is locked and loaded. The problem is that it's subsidized by the taxpayers. We got to go negotiate. I'm concerned about the parking. I really am about Utah City. I think we need to use lessons learned from times past and what we learned down at Lakefront to get down in there and negotiate hard with them. I think that whoever pays for a traffic study, a parking study, wins the study. They just do. That's how it works. I appreciate your commitment to keeping high density out of Utah, or out of Vineyard. I think more than anything else, my stance on single families is single family attracts home ownership. And we've got to have an opportunity here in the city of Vineyard where families can live here and move here and live the American dream. That is important for me. It's been important for my family. And I think this affordability issue on Vineyard, we've got to get it more affordable. We've got to get our property taxes down. And we've got to create a situation where people want to live here and plant their roots and stay here for the long term.
I would love to just say amen to that, Zach. That was really well said. I think that I would love to use my 60 seconds for anything else. I think because we really do agree on that, and I think that as a community, as we work together on council and future decisions, I think that you want to make sure that you're looking at your council members and making sure that those people are actually voting how you represent. Because now with this new mayor or the new form of government that I pushed for, your mayor will not have votes on most projects. It will be your city council. It will be your city council that's making these decisions, and your mayor will only vote on a tie-break decision or if it's having to do with their powers and duties. And so I would really encourage you to do your research, make sure that you're getting people that have that same value in our community. Parking is also a huge issue. We, like Zach said, we're locked and loaded in Utah City, but there have been negotiations that we have been able to pull forward, and that is by requiring a parking study for every so many units to make sure that they are in compliance as they're growing.
Okay, thank you very much for the question, or for your answers on these questions. We have 2 questions from the audience that I've just received, and we will start with Zack first on this one. The current council has a culture of leaving one council member out of all assignments and roles. How will you make sure this does not happen?
It is my experience in business and in life that disagreement is good. Different points of view make us stronger. In council, whoever's elected mayor, you're going to be dealing with 2 sides. But I think an important principle has been left and needs to be brought to our city hall. And that is the ability for us to sit down in city hall, in city council, and talk about our problems on the record. That is how we are going to heal this community. That's how it's going to be. I understand for a time that Mardi might have been the outsider. Personally, I think the last couple of years, I think that you could have been the deciding vote to stop a lot of the craziness we've seen. But that's neither here nor there. That's water under the bridge. I think moving forward, though, it takes courage and it takes backbone to be able to listen to your detractors and talk to them. I commit to stop this craziness that's been happening for 4 years of leaving people off council. It started with you, then went to Jake. I mean, good grief. You guys were elected by the people. We got to listen to what you have to say. We need to be open and honest with each other and not scared of having hard conversations. And that's how we will heal the city.
Thank you, Zach. I agree. I have actually pushed for Jake to have assignments, and Mayor Fulmer has some concerns, and she hasn't been moving forward with that. As mayor, as I've said before, I believe that it should happen, that everyone should have responsibilities on the council to be able to represent their constituents, to be able to bring their voice. It's incredibly important. One thing that I worry that maybe you don't know is that we talk about these issues all the time, and it really comes down to every single person has to have that desire. If we don't have a community that wants to get along, we're not going to get along. And so we have been dealing with a lot of opposition, but one thing that I want you to understand, and you can see it in my record, is I am a bridge builder. If you look at Sarah Cameron coming into City Council, she was lockstep with Jacob Holdaway. And we sat there and we would have healthy debates. We didn't agree on everything. We would try to educate each other. We would try to share information. And we have been able to work well together and come to great conclusions. And we still disagree on some things, but we are actually, to me, that is evidence in bridge building and showing that we can work together as a team rather than just voting no to vote no for opposition. I agree with you, Zach. It's a huge problem.
For 1 minute or? Okay. I appreciate your desire to make it better, but I think we need to take it a step further than bridge building. We need a peacemaker. The city of Vineyard needs a peacemaker at mayor. And what a peacemaker looks like, it's sitting down in City Hall, putting things on the agenda and having it out. Listening to residents' concerns, to my concerns. I'm a constituent. Making sure that we are heard, making sure that we are listened to. The role of a mayor is to be the chief executive officer of the city of Vineyard. And the role of a mayor is to protect the interests of families, to protect the interests of those who rely on the government for essential services. Doing that requires a peacemaker, and especially, and most importantly, in a city as divided as we are right now. We have got to get the debate off Facebook, and we've got to get it in the town square where it belongs.
Yeah, no, I agree. We really do need a peacemaker. It has been a really challenging time for not just our community, for our state, for our country. There has been so much division, and even just with bringing in partisan politics into our city, where it's not about our national values. It's, well, we want to make sure that we're having conservatism, that we're having good values, that we're having great financial fiscal responsibility. But what it comes down to is people are trying to bring in these partisan politics into our city that is adding to the divisiveness. It's adding to having the city feel like we have different things. Just looking at, you take a jar of red ants and black ants, and they will be happy as can be, walking around, climbing on each other. The moment you take that jar and you shake it up, they start attacking and killing each other. And so we need to focus on the things that we agree on, and the things, and celebrate our differences and work towards actual solutions. And that's what I've proven in my time on City Council.
So our next question from the audience is, why was the bridge to the lake come before the widening of 800 North? And start with Mardi.
You know, that's a great question. We don't get to pick where state funding always goes. We needed a connection for Utah City. This was in plans well before my time on City Council, but I do see it as a valuable connection. The cost is significantly different than what we would do to widen 800 North, and that is frankly out of our hands, besides the fact that we can lobby. I believe we do need a lobbyist. If we need to change our lobbyist, I feel comfortable with that as well. When we voted in to keep our lobbyist, it was before I had a vote, a support vote, before I had that sway I needed. But we need to lobby at the state to help make us a priority. We need to work well with MAG to make sure they can help keep Vineyard a priority, because Saratoga Springs just got 80 million or several million, tens of millions of dollars to fix their roadways to make sure that they have those transitional lanes. That money is taking away from our opportunity to widen 800 North. There are so many projects at the state, and that takes attending meetings where you will talk to the right people. It takes time, it takes relationships that I have already built, communication where I have that support. People want to work with our city, but they have started to pull away because of our divisiveness. They've started to pull away because of all the slander. Vineyard needs to heal, and they need a leader that will be a good representative that will help us grow and grow responsibly.
You know, this is a great question that I ask myself. It's often that 1200 North Bridge is called the bridge to nowhere, and I have a hard time understanding what the priority was. I will tell you about an experience that I had with UDOT and with MAG, actually. 6 weeks ago, maybe 8 weeks ago, I went with a bunch of citizens. We talked about that. I was interested to learn how the regional planning process worked, and I was looking at the video screen, and I saw the different priorities that were on UDOT's radar over the next 3 to 5 years, and I raised my hand and I said, I don't see 800 North even on this yet. And they looked at me, they're like, why would it be? And I said, it is terrible. And I said, so how do we go about doing this? And they walked me through the situation. And as I got to the root cause of what was going on, it came down to that the leaders of Vineyard weren't communicating with them that there's a problem. It wasn't even on the radar. And to me as a citizen and one who cares about our community deeply, who cares about the ingress and egress out, that was hard to see. I think that for too long, Vineyard has gone around the different ways of doing it. There is a process. Get it regionally planned. Get it funded. We got to be able to work together with our local partners, UDOT, Orem, Linden, all the different people that are neighbors, to make it happen so we can fix these problems.
Thank you, Director. We do have a regional plan, and I've seen it, and I've worked with UDOT, and it has been a part of the process. It does show widening 800 North. It does show building a commuter road going around Geneva all the way to 1600 North that will eventually go through Linden to connect with Pioneer Crossing or do a parallel to Pioneer Crossing. Those have been in the plans. If you look at the 30-year plan or 50-year, there's a road across the bridge, which is concerning on where that will connect and what it would do to the lake. But on top of that, I didn't know we were talking about 1200 North. I thought we were talking about the bridge by the lake. The one at 1200 North, to call it a bridge to nowhere is, to me, laughable. We got $10 million from state appropriations, money that could have gone to any other city that has these same needs. Everywhere is growing. But we got $10 million to build a bridge right by Huntsman Cancer Institute that was part of a deal breaker. They said if we don't have an access to go from the lake to Geneva, crossing that bridge, then we won't be able to come here. And we got that. We also got $15 million to widen Center Street for the railroad tracks as soon as those can be removed. Woo!
Okay, thank you very much. That's the end of our questions at this point as we approach almost an hour and a half here. For our closing statements, as a request, please address the following question as a part of your closing statement. Are we better off now as a city than we were 4 years ago? Why or why not? And Marty, you first.
So to clarify, is this my closing statement?
Yes.
Okay.
2 minutes.
I believe we are. When I started on council, there were a lot of things that we needed that we didn't have, and a lot of it was that the services. We needed a fire station. We were under contract with Orem Fire. We had to bring in a fire station, and we made a creative solution that we were able to pay out of our budget to pay for a fire station that will service our community and save lives. We also needed more economic development that's coming in. We have a grocery store coming in. I've been over a lot of this, a lot of our improvements that have happened over the past 4 years. I've also done new codes. We've made ways to get things on the agenda easier. We've made codes or policies that make it so when there's something on consent, we need fiscal approval. Those ideas came from residents, and we were able to make those changes. We got rid of ranked choice voting, which I think was very divisive, even though it was the opposite. On our consent items, we also have acronyms spelled out so that community residents that don't know what all these different acronyms, which is a huge learning curve for anyone coming into government, The thing with me is you guys have seen my record. You've seen that I'm not a divisive person. You've seen that I am trying to build this city. I'm trying to move forward with progress. And why I'm running, why I wanted to give you an option to vote for me is because I care about Vineyard's future. I care about our progress. I want to make sure that we're growing responsibly while protecting and building the infrastructure that we need. This can't be, let's cut, and then somehow build all the roads that we need. This can't be something that we cut the budget and still have the community services that make our city great. So I want you to look at my record, forget the whole 98%, think about, go and watch us negotiate, watch us discuss, and see where my values lie, and you'll know that I am the best choice for mayor.
I appreciate, again, I think that tonight really was a victory for the families of Vineyard, and I really appreciate everybody that came here. I really do. Thank you so much for showing up, for caring. It's heartwarming to see everybody come here. I'm going to tell a story about why I got involved, and I disagree with Mardi. I personally think that 4 years ago, we were in a little bit of a better place, and specifically for this reason. When I'm just going to try not to get choked up. I'm sorry. Like I said earlier in the debate, I served ecclesiastically of a congregation down south. I walked out of sacrament meeting one day, and there's a man holding an eviction notice in his hand, tears in his eyes, a brother I was trying to help along the way. And I bring him into my office. I said, "Brother, what's going on?" And he says to me, "I'm getting evicted." I said, "What happened?" He said, "My property taxes went up, so the landlord raised my rent." That broke my heart. As I go and I knock doors and I talk to people in the city, I talk to people on fixed incomes that are making the decision between baptism, going to a grandson's baptism, or making their payment. And I just don't think it should be like that. I appreciate the need. We need to fund our core services. But again, this is where Marty and I just differ. I think that there is a lot of budgetary waste that we need to get rid of. And I truly feel that any organization that can't cut 5 to 10% of their budget is just being disingenuous. I'm Zack Stratton. I'd love for your vote. Thank you so much. God bless Vineyard. God bless you all.
Thank you so much. We'd really like to thank the mayoral candidates, Zack and Mardi. Thank you so much for your time and willingness to allow us to get to know your positions. Thank you. And we'd also like to express our appreciation for each of you in our audience and participating in this political process and becoming informed voters. So thank you very much. Now, as we close, we have the mayoral candidates meet and greet in this room. We'll stay in here. And we will also have a Vineyard City Council candidate meet and greet in the HOA boardroom, which is right behind right here. So thank you very much.